Well, good morning, good morning, good morning, everyone. It's so good to be here with you. It's been a minute. Even when I thought about it, I was like, maybe I should just wait till February. It got good to me on one sense, but on the other sense, it was like, oh, I want to go back. I want to get started. And I've talked to Tiffany. I'm like, I think I might get on Sunday. I was like, I think I'm gonna go live, you know, because it had just come so much a part of me. But I just wanted to say I'm happy to be here. Excuse me, a little congested. I'm happy to be here and I'm happy to see all of you. Yay! 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 And to these wonderful, beautiful people that's taking time out of their busy schedule today to be here. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. I'm on here looking for stuff and don't even know what I'm looking for. But listen, shalom to everyone that comes on. You know, if you are depressed, you are living in the past. If you are anxious, you are living in the future. But if you're at peace, you're living in the present. And I was sitting down and I was thinking about that. And I was like, where do I live most of the time? Well, most of the time, I'm living in the future or I'm living in the past. Gotta be honest, not always in the present where that peace is. So, I think that I'm going to really work on myself in that area. So I have my mirror this morning, and yeah, in the mirror, all I want to say is thank you, Yahweh, for creating me such a beautiful person, such a person that has chosen, in spite of everything, to serve you. And I wonder when you look in your mirror, what do you see? Do you see the creation or do you see the negative, the non positive, the things that you're going through, the things that might not be right, and the things that make you sit on the side of the bed or in the bed and say, is life worth living? Well, I want to say to you that life is worth living. And if you have to ask the question, then you already know the answer. And we're so glad that you're here today. And we're so glad that you're going to take a moment to just debrief and just pause and begin to say, my life is worth living. One of my sisters saying, it's not her saying, but she does say it. And her saying is, a life without you would be like a world without color. And I want you to know that it's important. Your life is so important, and that you have a purpose, you have a destiny, and you have a purpose. You have somewhere you're thriving to get through, and there always will be things that come and try to hinder your move because you don't see what you need to see. So I want to encourage you today to just keep doing what you're doing. Stop thinking about what you're thinking about as far as things being not right, because everything works out right when we trust in Yahweh, when we put our faith and hope in God. So I want to say good morning to everybody. And I want to start with Mike. Mike was one of the first ones that came on as a co-host. Him and Alicia. Alicia had an appointment, so she won't be with us today. But I want to start with Mike. Thank you, Mike, because the slides and stuff you see, Mike did all that. My getting me set up, showing me how to do all that is because of Mike, and I want to say thank you, Mike, so much. I appreciate it, and
for allowing
you've
me.
had a long road in 2023 and now you've crossed over to the other side. And I just want you to tell the people a little bit about yourself. Um, Even now, what's been happening? I see you popping up with some videos and things like that about life. What's going on, Mike?
Everything is going great. Um, Back in 2022, the end of 22, I was diagnosed with multiple myeloma, a rare. blood cancer. And 2024 has been just full of ups and downs of actually going through the treatment process for that. Um, dozens, dozens and dozens of doctor's appointments, different treatments. Um, um, had three bone marrow biopsies during that time. Um, I've had stem cell transplant, which had me in the hospital for I guess 12, 13 days. Um, and then the actual recovery from that. So 2024 has been a couple of things for me, and I was thinking about this the other day. How it's a new chapter. 2024 is like the beginning of a new chapter. 2023 was like the closing of one, or the beginning, however you look at it. But it has showed me just that if you're willing to endure what you're faced with, there's beauty on the other side. And I say that because for me, this has really gave me a good snapshot of my life, um, and it lets me know that regardless of what the challenge is, there's a lesson in the challenge. And I was telling my son that regardless of what chapter, whenever you enter into another chapter, just be rest assured there's going to be some challenges with it. So I've learned that in this, and it has made me stronger. One of the things that I'm working on now, and I've really told a lot of people, is after this latest challenge, I challenged myself to at some point ride my bike across the United States. Um, and with that, I'm not sure when that will happen, but I I've challenged myself to create smaller challenges to lead up to that. So in September, I'm hoping to do a 100-mile ride in Delaware, and that'll be the first ride that I actually do outside. I've been in my house training for a while, but um, yeah, that's a little bit about me and what's going on.
Okay, okay, with the bike across the country.
Yeah, it's a big goal. I have no idea when it'll happen and how it'll happen, or if my health will allow me to do it. But that's what I'm training for.
You training for it, I'm sure it'll happen. And look, you're gonna have to see about getting in the Guinness Book of Records. They have all kind of stuff. My cousin, he's always in the Guinness Book of Records. Um, with something, with
Mm,
something.
really?
Hey, Alicia. So thank you. Mike, like he said, is always doing something. And if you go to his page, you'll see him talking about life and encouraging you to keep going with life. And so I'm glad that you're here, Mike. I thank you for it. And so I want Team Charles to come and um, hey, hey, London. I mean, hey, Adrian and Sanaya. My granddaughter's in Sweden. She's on today. So thank you for being here. We talk quite often, and I've gotten to know you guys a lot better. And just tell us a little bit about your no nuts. It's been kind of quiet about no nuts and what y'all got going on over there in your neck of the woods.
I'm Rick,
And I'm Tiff,
and
and
we're
we're
Team
Team
Childs.
Childs. So Rick and I, we are pretty much health renewal coaches. We inspire the power of choice towards whole body wellness, spiritually, mentally, and physically through commitment, consistency, and community. So that's us in a nutshell. We do have a product, and that product is called No Nut Energy Mix. It's a trail mix um, that doesn't have any nuts in it. So although it is a trail mix, it can be used as a topper as well. People put it on their salads, their yogurts. People are even baking with it as well, putting it in their muffins, pancakes, or they're just eating it by themselves. It's an amazing product that you can just grab and go. So yeah, that's just a little bit about us. I don't know if my husband wanted to say anything. Oh, I am the better half of St. Childs. I just wanted to put that out there.
Yeah, she never misses that disclaimer.
She
So,
does it. She does it.
and I'll agree with her since it is being recorded, and she'll probably look at it again.
We have
So,
game tape.
yes, we have game. So, but no, it's been an amazing journey, and just us doing something together. I know the topic today is about forgiveness, but I just know that us being business partners is a task in itself, and a lot of forgiveness has to come within that process. So I'm just thankful that we're able to be in a community and have people surrounding us that give us support, give us wisdom, give us knowledge and understanding of the path that we're on right now and the journey that we're going through. And we just thank you. So we look forward to this discussion.
I might have to go. We forgot our spoon this morning. I'm sorry.
Oh, I'm so glad. Just make Mike is like spoon. Just make like you got it, okay? Y'all just toss it back and forth. Miss Wanda, Minister Wanda, thank you. Hi, what's going on in your neck of the woods? I saw a video the other day that said you were stopping one part of your beauty school, not school, but Facebook or something. What's going on over there? So
Right.
look, this, Wanda's up there in Cali. It's 6 o'clock in the morning here. So I want to thank her for being here with us this morning.
Oh,
What you
I'm
got going on?
pleased to be here. It's such a pleasure to be
Thank
here.
you.
My name is Wanda Floyd. I am a licensed hair care professional. Been licensed for guess what now? February will be 31 years. I'm so proud.
Wow, congratulations.
Their career been much longer, but 31 years in the industry is an accomplishment. So I'm very proud of that. I am the owner of WLF Hair Care Academy and the Brains and Beauty Business Academy, where we teach beauty industry professionals how to do business better. And just recently, I have come to a plateau where I've decided that uh, my WLF Hair Care Academy, which is a private hair care group on Facebook, that I've had it for 3 years, and I just announced to them that this was 2023 was the end, but there was enough information there that they could go back 3 years. When I say I've taught everything because there's more to me than just hair. And so this year I'm going to branch out and do some new things like my own talk show, which is Let's Talk About It with Wanda, which is on Mondays at 6:30 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. We're going to do some amazing topics there. I'm still a hair care professional, but there's other aspects of me that people need to know. So that's
That's great. That's great. Now, listen, for those of us on the East Coast, that means 9:30 at night. So if you like me, you usually sleeping. So some I have to set my alarm. Sometimes I hear it, sometimes I don't. But I do catch the replay. So you could always catch the replay if you haven't. And I want to thank each and every one of you for always supporting me and being here. If I call and say, can you come on with me? You guys are like, bet I'm here. But the man and the reason why we are here this morning has entered the room, which is the great Apostle B.W. Jones. How are you, Apostle?
Shalom alaikum to each and every one of you. I'm so sorry for the technical mix-up. I was trying to do it on the phone. It's supposed to be on the email. I can't find the email, but we here.
That's fine. Yes, I'm glad you're here so that we can carry on this conversation about, excuse me, I think I can get it out, about forgiveness. The last time you were on, you said that you wanted to talk about a few other things that you have experienced with uh, forgiveness and things that you had to endure. So, and you said that you wanted certain people to be here, and we are here to hear what you have to talk about. So I'm going to turn it over to you, and let's have a conversation about some of the areas in forgiveness that you would like to talk about.
No problem. And again, thank you all for the opportunity to share with you on this great platform. Uh, Forgiveness being on the table. Childs, love you guys, both of you. I'm not going to sit here and try to bloviate on how much I appreciate what you guys are doing out there. And I sneak in and listen from time to time. Mike, I don't even want to know. Um, Literally, I just want you to know that I'm so glad to see you, brother. I mean that from my heart, and it's a good thing to be able to look at you through your glasses and say shalom to you. And I mean that from my heart.
Wait a minute, Apostle. I have to stop you for a minute because Mike was just telling us that he has a goal, and his goal is to ride his bike across America. And but his first goal is to ride it. What is it? 100. What did you say, Mike?
It's a
Tell
century ride.
Apostle.
Yeah, it's a century ride, and a friend of mine had said, hey, if you're looking to ride across America, you probably need to just start back with some smaller goals. So I'll be doing a 100-mile ride in September, Lord willing, in Delaware.
Oh, in Delaware. Okay,
Yeah.
that's cool. Some of my stomping grounds. Excellent. My family's still up there. Listen, I not only support that, I look forward to seeing that accomplished. There is nothing like getting a new look on life and then setting goals that are with regard to that. I love that. Maybe you can help me because I'm trying to still dunk on my son after my two major back surgeries. They told me I wouldn't be playing basketball, and I'm playing semi-pro ball now. My goal is to simply dunk on my son. I mean, he need to feel me on this, and so he's just that good. I'm not there yet, but I'm playing ball, which they said I couldn't do.
Right.
So with you in that century, I'm 100% praying, agreeing in faith with you, not praying for you,
Right.
agreeing in faith with you for that to be accomplished. And Yahweh will bring that to fruition for you. I just know him. I've been told healing is the children's bread, which is a part of why I wanted to make sure we're all here in this process for this part of the conversation. Minister Wanda, it's always a pleasure to hear you talking about hair and with other things that you do as well. So it's a great thing to hear your plans for this year as well. But just to not waste a whole bunch of time, not waste time, but take too much time talking about what we're going to discuss here. When we talked about forgiveness, everyone's stories that we had heard and listened to. Oh, what was this? This was before. This was before. This was right after Thanksgiving, wasn't it? The whole team effort for forgiveness.
The last time you was on, you mean?
Okay.
Yes, it was in December.
we gonna watch the shade. Okay. My Cowboys lost. I don't need no more shade about the last
I know.
time y'all won a championship. You mean the last time you was on talking about we gonna start there. Okay. I'm gonna forgive you for that shite, Anyway. So I joke and jest, but once you've lived through a traumatic experience and you happen to be one who's considered to be a leader or one who is considered to be doing something, blazing a path, or communicating with the community that you are a part of in a positive and effective way, there is something I think we overlook in Christendom about forgiveness that's not just associated to you saying, I'm sorry to an offense or a insult, be it physical or spiritual or relational. And so I was listening to all of the beautiful stories that you guys were sharing and the ideals you were approaching forgiveness from. And as I was sitting there and remembering my process of bringing me out, Yahweh had revealed to me and reminded me, Ruach reminded me of one of the things that we don't often enough time do. And that is, it's going to sound weird. It's going to almost be oxymoronic, but we say, I'm going to forgive, right? And we talk about forgiving someone or forgiving something, and then we're going to move on. The first thing I've always tried to let people know is that one, and this isn't like directed at any of you. This is just something I wanted us all to sort of kind of touch on for a few minutes each while we give it back to the people we shared it with and what have you. But we've had this narrative, and we sort of kind of discussed it, that people within Christendom and in our regular lives think that we can forgive and forget. And it is literally impossible to forget what you forgave. And the process I have found that is so significant is that until we embrace the reality that I can't forget either what I did to make me have to forgive myself or what was done to me to have me forgive someone else and stay in right stead with the Father, I have to consistently remember what I've done. Sometimes whether I like it or not, or what had been done. Sometimes whether I like it or not. And the reason I take this path to begin this and find it necessary for all of us who speak about forgiveness is because we only think about what was done to us, and we sometimes fail to remember some of the things we've done to others. And one of the biggest things on the planet is forgiving yourself. You can, even forgiving yourself for letting yourself get hurt. Forgiving yourself for, hurting or hurting someone or failing yourself. And that's a process that many people don't think needs to be addressed because we don't think it needs to be done. And so when I remember I could not get past a certain plateau, and I had gone to actually see a psychologist because, though I may counsel others, I can't counsel myself. And I'm sitting in the room speaking with this very wise individual, and they began to see this tendency. And then the concept was, hey, have you forgiven yourself for this, this, and this, and that? And I'm like, what? Why would I need to? You really don't get the full benefit of the concept of our Father and his power he pushes through us unless we have taken the time to consider everything. There's a phrase we use in Christendom, in error, and that is, one, except Elohim builds the house, they that labor in vain. But in order to build a house, you must first count up the cost. There are all these different types of costs you have to count before you can build a house that will now stand on a rock and not be built on the sand. Does that make sense? And so when we begin to build, we think lumber, we think nails, we think, mortar, we think block, but we don't think foundation. Now, the thing that stands out the most in this track we're going to travel on is one thing we've preached about, but we didn't follow the path he left us on. And that was something we always preach about on Good Fridays. You know, every Good Friday of the year coming up in this particular season. By the way, when Good Friday comes around, you'll see everybody having their Good Friday services, the 7 last words, you know, and we every year we touch the area, but we never fully get into it. And the one thing that is so significant about the power that releases in us when we forgive, when we understand forgiveness, is literally what Messiah did. We read Isaiah chapter 53. He was bruised for our iniquities. The chastisement of our peace was upon him. He was stricken, smitten of God, and afflicted. They took him from his generation. Who shall declare his generation? He, like a sheep before his shearers was sheared, he never said a mumbling word. Yet it pleased the Father to have them bruise him. And then when we get to the end of chapter 53, it says, and it pleased the Father, and he made him a number with the greats, and he literally shared the spoils of his victory with those who would be strong in faith like him, right? But we can't get that verse 12 in our lives, and he, Yeshua, the Messiah, could not get that release for us unless he did one thing nobody paid attention to. But everybody teaches it. Everybody preaches it. And until I sat down in this session with my apostle and a counselor, I had two. My apostle was counseling me, and I also had a psychologist because I was really going through some stuff in transitions, and I needed to get bearings. This, y'all, while I'm teaching the gospel. So let me just throw that plug. Stop acting like, you know, your prayers are going to be the only thing that help you get through. You also need to understand what you're praying for and how you're praying. So getting someone to talk wisely about matters, all right, and help bring them into perspective is a process of building. You have to have an excavator. You have to have a journeyman plumber, a journeyman electrician. You got to have a proper architect. All these things are the building process. And for you and I in the natural, you got to have that word, the Torah. You got to have a relationship with the Father, and you got to have someone who is also like you about his word and his relationship to talk with, to keep things balanced. So you don't go to the left thinking you got it together because you got a relationship with the Father and you think you know his word. So all of this stuff has to come together. I hope that you all can embrace that. Now, here is the point of what I wanted to make sure we all got as people mature, and I am still doing every day of my life. And I want everyone else to understand that these things are important, but we don't talk about it. To get the benefits of Elohim's power and all that he has for us when it comes to being healed through forgiveness, and being empowered through forgiveness, is this: Good Friday services. Can y'all remember any of the things that y'all teach about? We teach about on Good Friday. Anybody got a topic? Anybody? Has anybody been selected to speak this Good Friday? I want to know. Raise the left hand. Nobody. Nobody's. You, devil, Father, we pray now. Nobody talking on Good Friday. Mike, before you do your bike trap, you're not speaking nowhere, sir? The wife speaking anywhere? Anybody doing Good Friday? Come on, Charles. Team. I know you're a tag team for something. Nobody?
The first thing that popped in my head was having fish. I'm sorry.
Having fish.
I'm sorry.
Love it. That's not a bad idea. So anywho, anybody else got another topic that we talk about on Good Friday?
You got to do the 7 last words.
Well, but which of the 7 have you been?
Well, I've done many of them, but the last one I did was "It is finished."
Okay, it is finished. That's a great one to do. Anybody else?
I've done "Forgive them, for they know not what they do."
Okay, anybody else? No, nobody else? Mike, I see you trying to get to it. We're gonna figure it out in a few. But you know, there are so many things we got. We have forgiven. We got you know, I thirst. You know, here is your mother. Here is your son. We got Eloi, Eloi, lama sabachthani. My God, why have you forsaken me? We got all these different things, right? And so at the end of the day, we don't realize, in order for Messiah to literally become our Messiah, none of it could happen until he said, Father, forgive them. For they have no idea what they're doing. Everything that Messiah laid the groundwork for through living the 33 and a half years on this planet, coming through the attempt on his life. Listen, the attempt on his life as a baby. They tried to kill this man before he was 2. He lived down in Egypt, kept walking back and forth across the border to come to the feast every year. Couldn't live in his own neighborhood because they were trying to kill him. He couldn't even afford to be exposed as a name that would say Yahweh's salvation. So he was down in Egypt. He got left in Jerusalem one year because he was confounding the rabbis in the temple. And you all know the story that they turned around 3 days journey, came back and got him. And he says, I must be about my father's business, right? But the fact that he had to go to Egypt to live is an offense. So now he is coming back. He crosses over Jordan, has to go up into Nazarene to live, and to Galilee to live, which is northern of where he should be. So he comes back down way away from Bethlehem, not even near Jerusalem. So he has to come back and make these journeys and these travels. So his name isn't known amongst the temple savants. And so now when Messiah is finally launched into ministry. He was launched into ministry because his mother wanted him to perform a parlor trick at a wedding. The parlor trick was to turn water into wine because they drank up all the wine. And she was like, well, and y'all forgive me, I think she was a little tipsy. I think she was feeling it. She was like, you know, I know what my son can do. Y'all know, Yeshua, go over there and make some wine. He like, Mom, I'm not here for parlor tricks. I'm here to be about my father. Well, make some. So he honors the Torah. He honors his mother's request. Doesn't ask her for forgiveness, because this would be used as a launch for him into ministry. I know y'all think that I'm way off course. I promise you, if you know me, I'm gonna tie it in so tight. It's gonna be the best pair of shoes you wear today. So when his mother puts him on blast, he says, all right, I'm going to obey the word. The word says to honor my father and my mother, that my days may be long upon the land. He honors the charge. He doesn't give her kickback. He honors the charge. She said, before he can even say anything, she tells the people, y'all go get me pots. Go get him some pots of water and bring it back to him. So he tells them, y'all go do whatever he says for you all to do, you just do. He tells them, go get me some pots of water. He gets the water. They come back. He turns the water to wine. Y'all know the rest of the story. The governor is there of the city, and he tells them, you know, y'all pulled a fast one on us. Usually people give us the worst wine at the beginning, but y'all gave us the best wine at the end. You know, they give you the best wine at the beginning, and then they give you the worst wine as the party keeps going because you're already drunk. But no, y'all gave us the best wine. Y'all know the story, right? So Messiah then tells his mother, hey, you know, it's been cool. We've been rocking together for a minute, but I'm out because I can't have you, you know, pimping me to do parlor tricks. Y'all don't like that conversation, but let me tie it in. So he leaves at that moment, and the 3.5-year ministry begins. Heads over to Jordan, crosses the Jordan, John the Baptist, behold the Lamb of Elohim. He goes for 3 years being accused of being Satan, Beelzebub, being accused of being blasphemous, being accused of disrespecting Elohim's name, calling himself God, the whole litany of accusations. And then he is falsely accused so long that they're trying to build a case against him and they just can't. They finally get false witnesses to come out against him. And before the actual promises of Elohim for a Messiah coming in the earth could release that virtue on us and them, he had to do one key thing. Once they hung him on that cross, after they whipped him all night long, after they pierced him in his side, before they pierced him in his side, while they were whipping him and pulling his beard and putting a burlap sack on his head and telling him after they punched him and kicked him in the head and the face, who hit you? Prophesy, tell us who did this to you. After he takes that humiliation, he has to drag himself and a cross, a part of his cross, up to Golgotha's hill from the center city. He's wore out, and they raise him after they nail his hands and they nail his feet into that cross. And he never says a word. And the only way to get any of the healing virtues that come because of him being in existence, and any way that they can get what they need, and we can get as Gentiles what we need, is when Messiah leaves it all hanging there. And he says these words we all have heard, Wanda has preached, but what he said was so empowering and it forever jilted me. He said, Father, forgive them, before he said anything else, before any of the 7 last words ever become effective for us. He says, Father, forgive them, for they know not what they do. Now you would think, okay, Apostle, that's not impressive. That's no reason to have us all come back here on a Sunday morning when we all got churches and you're supposed to be preaching in 12 minutes. And that's what's the reason for all this gathering back? You're not that deep. It's not worth all that. When he says, Father, forgive them, for they know not what they do, there's another phrase in the Bible many of us haven't paid attention to. And I don't say this condescending. I hope that doesn't sound condescending. I want to say this confirmingly and consciously. That whenever we sin, we crucify Messiah afresh. We can confess we're repenting for our sins, but every time we repent for sin, we are in total crucifying, having had crucified Messiah again every time we sin. So you never forget sin. You never forget what you need repentance for. And when you repent, we need to make sure we're also always forgiving ourselves for letting ourselves sin.
So us being mindful of being a place of forgiveness. Go ahead.
Being mindful of being in a place of forgiveness, but the part that goes to say that, people will tell you, well, you got to forgive and forget. You can't. You can't forget your sin. You can't forget your offense. You can never forget what was done to you, and you can never forget what you've done to others, be it by mistake or be it on purpose, being catty, unlearned, unknowing when you were younger, for both getting offended or giving offense. And
so, can I stop you for a minute? Because now I think of doubting Thomas and how he said, unless I see the evidence in his hands, I'm not going to believe that he has risen, in so many words. That evidence, and one of the things I used to always say is that you, the scar will always be there in so many words. There's going to be evidence of what you come through, even though you're going through healed. I don't know if that makes sense.
Let me help you clean it up. Every insult is an impaling. Every impaling leaves a scar. So in that respect, yes. Thomas's issue of saying, unless I see the scars. Let me take you into what Thomas was saying. The hand posture you see on the screen right now is in fact the Hebrew word or the Hebrew tetragrammaton, Yod-Heh Vod-Heh. That's literally what it looks like when it's written and spelled out. So when Moshe and Aaron were given the charge in Numbers chapter 6, when it told them that Moshe, Aaron, when you've done talking to the people about my Torah and you and the people say they're going to comply with what I've given you to give them, when you see that they're going to comply, when you give the benediction, you put my name on them. So the priest, the Gadol Kohanim, Moshe, whoever the actual Levite would have been that orated from the Torah, would then put the blessing on the people. May Yahweh, Yod-Heh Vod-Heh. Now, Yod-Heh Vod-Heh in Hebrew, that set of consonants begins to give you the Yod-Heh, the Y, the Yod, the Vod, and the Hey. Yod-Heh Vod-Heh. That is the Y, the W, the Y, the Y, the H, the W, the H. Yod-Heh Vod-Heh. So that is Yahweh, right? Now, what that indicts, when you put that in the way that it's defined, and I'll do a teaching so you can get a better understanding. You can probably check it out on my page, but I'm doing this very quickly because it goes deeper. In Yod-Heh Vod-Heh, when it comes to the Messiah, it means he who has the nail-scarred hands. So all the time they came through the school of Bet Safar, which is beginning school for every Jewish child. And then they will go to middle school called Bet Midrash. All right. So in Bet Safar, they learned at age 4 to age 8 how to recite on demand the Torah at any point in the 5-book Torah. That's in Bet Safar, ages 4 to 8. So these little Jewish children to age 8 can tell you more about the Torah than a preacher with a double degree in theology and theology today. They can quote on demand from ages 4 to 8. Just ask them, what does Devarim 12:2 say? They spit it right out. Now, here's the beauty of this. From ages 8 to 12, their charge and one of their tasks is that they must on demand recite it back to you backwards from Devarim all the way back to Bereshit. Now, in that process, they understand the wording that says, and in that they understand that it is he who has the nail-scarred hands, that is who the Messiah is. So when Miriam runs back from the tomb, when she gets back and she tells Yochanan, she tells the rest of them, whatever it is, Thomas isn't, he's not there. So when Messiah shows up to those guys and Peter and James and Peter and John, and they're like, oh, wow. Thomas goes to find his brother, his twin brother, because his twin brother could look like him. They'll have him arrest him, try to kill him. So Thomas went looking for his brother. And when he gets back, Messiah's already left. So when Thomas shows back up, Yahweh already knows his heart. And Thomas is like, except I see he who has the nail-scarred hands, I'm not going to believe it. And this is something ignorantly Christendom doesn't know how to teach. That's why he said, except I see the nails in his side. First thing Messiah does when he walks through a closed door Yeah, I'm pausing for effect. When he walks through a closed door into the place they are locked in at, he doesn't knock on the door and say, yo, 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 it's me. He appears through the wall. I don't care. He doesn't tell me that there was some guys who took the ceiling off and dropped him down through a rope like he did inside. When they didn't say he opened the door, it says he appeared in the room unto Thomas. And the first thing he does for Thomas, y'all gonna stop messing with Doubting Thomas. That's my dude. The first thing he says to them is, Miriam, I know you probably low-key had a little crush on him anyway, so you be tripping. You all emotional right now, and you trying to get his body. I know y'all went to embalm him and all that stuff. You oil him up and everything like that. And you know, you all emotional. And Peter and John, I know you love him because you laid your head on his breast when he was at dinner, and I know you always trying to find out what he made of. And Peter, I know you didn't like him at first, but then after he fixed your fishing business, now you all buddies with him and everything, and y'all walking around. He told you to go get some fish out the gold at the fish mouth. And I know y'all rocking like that, but listen, look, I got bigger things to fight. My brother is about to be accused of some stuff if I didn't get him hidden. So while I was going, y'all was probably sitting around here just going through all your little mourning processes and your grief and don't know how to process nothing. In order for me to believe what you're saying right now, I need to see what we learned in Bet Sephar and Bet Midrash. He who has the nail-scarred hands. The first thing Messiah shows him when he comes in, he says, Thomas, put your fingers in my scar. Thomas, place your finger in my side. Does a ghost have these? Everybody knew what he was talking about. Everybody except Christians.
So since I'm using it in an ignorant way.
No. I wasn't referencing it to you.
But what I want to say is,
I hope that didn't come off that way.
Sure it did, but it's okay. No, positive. Don't calm down.
No, because that really sincerely wasn't the aim. You
right.
You were talking about scars
and it was good
that they don't go away.
Right.
I'm a teacher. I'm going to fill in the blanks, especially when I'm in a Christian audience, because there are things we don't know that take us to another level when we sit back and understand that, oh, I didn't know that was connected to that too. Your point about the scars not going away, absolutely 100% true. I just decided to make sure that, okay, do y'all know why the scars were there? And just to clear the air on that, okay? Because I always take every opportunity that I can get as a teaching moment for us to know better the writ.
Sure.
Now you can't ever read that the same way. You forever have to consider what really took place. And this is where within Christendom, it's hard to get people to understand the importance of Torah and why we need to lose that as our lens to read any other story in the Bible. Does that make sense?
Yeah. So I really wanted to take a moment to thank everybody for being here and ask them to hit the like sign, subscribe, and share. I also wanted you to know that Alicia is in listening mode, so she is here as well. So I just wanted to take a moment really to say, to tell everybody that's here, thank you for being here. And I hope that you're learning something from this wealth of knowledge that's pouring into us today. Back to you, Apostle.
Yahweh be praised. I hope I didn't offend the Childs.
No, they're still here. They just went off the screen for a minute.
Yahweh be praised. So at the end of the day, the point to this forgiveness thing is the first thing that Messiah does in order for salvation to come to the Gentiles, in order for, watch this, even healing to come to his body. He has to completely forgive everything. And that has to be the start of the release. Let me bring that now back to a more significant point so we can all get off this call. My healing, which is a phenomenal feat of Yahweh Rapha, our healer, didn't start when I entered into the hospital for losing I lost all activity of my limbs from my navel down. In a hospital for 40 days, 40 nights, walked around with a limp for 6 months prior to realizing I got a problem, thinking I'm a man. I said, oh, it's just some kind of pain, and my whole spine was out of whack. And then when I got to the hospital, I was there for 40 days, literally 40 days and 40 nights in ICU, and then in a wheelchair for a year, 13, 14 months after that. While I was in the hospital and hit with this terminal news, or this dramatic news that I would not be able to walk again. I was supposed to be leaving there a quadriplegic. That's what they told me. They said, we have your T6, T7, and we got to keep working down to your T12, and it's going to affect your L section. We're not going to deal with your C, but from T6 to T12, we have to make some serious changes. They did everything they could do. They made the surgery complete. Everything went well. And then they told me, you may not ever have neurology. You may not ever have nerve connection in them again. To this day, I still have a patch on my back that I can't feel that area unless there's pressure. But that small defunct, Yahweh be praised, compared to what I couldn't do. If you've never ever lost control of your body and you don't know if you're going to be able to hold your children, your grandchildren, you don't know if you're going to be able to walk to the store, you don't know if you're going to be able to have to be picked up and carried around. When you start thinking in those kind of terms in your healing, Yahweh has this unique way of giving revelation to us because we got nothing else to do but to listen to him. At this point, we are on our backs, looking up like, Father, why? And he had me, what I was reading, the unique part was, I'm at a Seventh-day Adventist hospital. So they got a lot of religious programming going on. And I had a program that I needed to keep doing. Nobody knew I was in the hospital for 40 days and 40 nights except my family and my administrators. And I'm still doing broadcasts from my bed of traction. Every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, 1 p.m. Every Sunday on my radio broadcast, on my video broadcast. No one knew I was in that condition. But what came from that, it made me want to share this with you all, is we have to remember every offense done and every offense we've done and every offense done to us. We can't ever forget them. And I'm not telling you to remember them. I'm telling you when they come back to your remembrance, don't dismiss them like, oh, I'm over that. Forgive it on the spot again. Because we can think, oh, I'm over that. I'm mature. That was back then. I'm beyond that. Forgive it right there again, because what happens is when you remember, you can and have to forgive. But I want you to realize this as well, that every time you remember something that offended you, how many of y'all can get hot about it? Just on memory. If you get hot about it, you've taken it back and put it back in your hands. Once you've done that, whatever state you're in, you impede the flow of Elohim in our lives. Messiah gave the greatest ensample we need to see. Father, before we do anything on this cross, which is where I'm prophesied to be, this is going to be the antenna. This is going to be the cell signal tower for everybody using these iPhones of faith. These, because I do iPhones, y'all little Android people, y'all need deliverance and salvation. Y'all need to be saved. That's why y'all get saved. Get yourself an iPhone. So this is like the cell tower. He's lifted up like a cell tower so that everybody now can get this ray into their lives from this point. But before any of the power can be cut on to this antenna, I got to remove the blockage. See, y'all remember when Messiah, just a few hours ago, before he got on that cross, he told Elohim, I don't want to die for these people. Because of everything, and he cited everything them jokers did to him. And though he moved on from the garden to do the will, nevertheless, of two wills, let your will be done, right? He still gets to that cross and tells the Father, now that we're here, Father, forgive them, for they don't even know what they're doing. My point to you all, and my testimony to this end, is when I was in the hospital, I was extended great service. Most of the doctors were believers. They couldn't believe that I was still doing church services from the ICU unit. So for the next 33 days, once they found out what I was doing when they would come in for vitals, they put into my prescription to teach my sessions. So the nurses would put up signs outside to tell nobody coming for, phlebotomy or any other statistics or stats, don't go in, don't interrupt. So these hours, they helped me schedule teaching from that sick bed to the world. No one ever knew I was in the hospital. Never told anybody to pray for me. Never told anybody my situation, trying to get sympathy. Y'all send in y'all prayers and the heck with all of that. I'm sitting here. All I knew to do was to teach his word from that point. But what he showed me in that process was life is going to happen. If you're going to say you're a part of ministry and propagating and serving my word, you do it through ins and outs, ups and downs, good and bad. Watch this marriage. For sickness and in health, richer or for poor. And you don't stop this until I kill you, till death do us part. So while that's all going on, and the doctors are like, hey, this is awesome. We're going to give you space. We won't come in during these hours. You do what you got to do. And I had teams of doctors because I have no activity from my waist down. I have to be carried to the toilet. I can't get up. Anyway, I don't even want to relive it. See that just thinking about that, you remember the pain of it. So my point to everyone is, when you are reminded of an offense, always remember not to dismiss it, but to forgive it again and again and again. This is what keeps the flow and the potential of Elohim's word you've been bringing in, harnessing, garnering in your life to make your life effective in the earth, to make your salvation real in the earth. And forgiveness is more important than we thought. Messiah made it his business. The first thing he did, Father, forgive them. They don't know what they're doing. You and I know what they're doing, but forgive them. I've forgiven them. Please, you forgive them, but they don't know what they're doing. That is what triggered the prophecy for you and I as Gentiles from Isaiah 53:12 to manifest to us. For Paul, for Peter, for James, for you, for me. And every time we sin, we remind him of the crucifixion. And again, he forgives. He asks the Father to forgive them, for they know not what they do. So you can never forget what you're asking forgiveness for. It's not a process of forgiving and forgetting. Now, to many, this might sound weird, awkward, and like unworthy of wasting of our time. But until I went back in that, it was December the 16th, I went in. It was on the 24th that this revelation came. the doctor who did my surgery did one surgery prior. 5 days later, I still couldn't get activity. He went back in on an emergency surgery because something was challenging my life. And then that surgery, nothing happened again. And it was then I'm on my back. And I'm remembering your life literally will pass before your eyes. The things you've done, the places you've gone, the secret things nobody else knows about, everything floods. And you begin to not cry, but you begin to cry out and like, okay, what in my life do you want out of me? And I can tell you right now, I'm reliving that moment right now. I remember just asking him to forgive me for what I've done, and forgiving myself for what I allowed to happen, what I caused to happen. And I'm not in this pity mode. It's like I'm being prodded to just forgive it all. 7 days later, they're getting signs that the surgery did take. At the end of the day, after the 40th day of being in there, they then send me for 3 weeks to a rehab facility. And I'm in there for 3 weeks. So I'm going through all day, every day programming. But I felt the difference that night. It was the 24th, because you know I don't do Christmas, and they was all doing this stuff out there. And I was in there on my back, room is dark, and tears just rolling down my eyes, not crying, it's just the fullness is hitting me, and I'm being prompted to to forgive, not repent, to forgive everything, everyone, and then myself. 7 days later, they're getting signals in their machinery and their equipment that there is activity happening again. So my point is, after that, and even to this day, I'm reminded of some of the things that I forgave people for. And I've learned over these years, this was 2012. I've learned over these years that as soon as those issues pop up, funny part was I was preaching it before I went in for this surgery. Didn't know he was prepping me to live what I was preaching. The message was very popular for us before I burned all the masters. Images in my mind. How every day when you sin, every day when you mess up, you know, you can be in a holy place and serving Elohim and y'all all there in worship, and all of a sudden you get this perverted thought in your mind while you're worshiping the Father, talking about, I love you, Jesus. And a weird thought pops in your head, like, how did I get here in this place? And so it's images in my mind. And he's reminding me, when you are in that high place of worship and you are acknowledging me and telling me this and telling me to move into you, as I move in, I'm going through all the furniture in your house, your tabernacle, place I built to dwell in, and all the furniture you brought in. I'm letting you know I don't want this picture here. And what Yahweh will do is, while you're worshiping him, come into my life, Father. Oh, I bless your name. Change anything you see inside of me, take it out of me. And you're like, well, how did I get that weird thought while I'm talking to him like that? He's bringing you everything that's in your mind. He's bringing you every piece of furniture you put in your soul. And he's saying, listen, if I'm moving in, this got to go. What you want me to do with it? I had no idea he was prepping me from that message years before for this moment years later. So the point to this is, Zion, always remember, when issues you've forgiven come up, and never exclude forgiving yourself. When issues you've forgiven come up, forgive them again. And the reason for that is, there is usually a blessing right around the corner. There's usually an empowerment right around the corner for you. Do you? But if you're remembering something, Yahweh is telling you, this is something you still not fully processed. Forgive it anyway. Well, I forgave that. We good. We Gucci. No, if it pops up, forgive it. Remind yourself, hey, I forgave that. Now look to see what's the lesson from it. I hope I didn't create a captive audience to pontificate about what I think I know more than others. I listened to a lot of what you all were saying, and I wanted to make sure we could bring this stuff home, because forgiveness is more part of your walk in salvation and more part of your healing from salvation than we think. I thank you for allowing me the opportunity to share this on your programming today, and I hope that we can bring some conclusion to the fact that forgiveness is still on the table, because forgetfulness is never going to be your issue. The only one that can forgive is Yahweh. And when he says he casts our sin into the sea of forgetfulness, it's a sea. It's holding it. There is no forgetting. He just can't cast into the sea of forgetfulness. Your brain has been set up, your imagery has been set up that you can't forget anything. You think you do, but you can't. That's why computers are such a problem for you and I as humans. Once you type those keystrokes, that ain't going nowhere. That can be redrawn by anybody at any place at any point. You hit delete all you want to. You scrub your computer all you want to. You throw your hard drive in the East River all you want to. There's a cloud that has recorded every keystroke in every place you've ever been. So when things come back and remind you of it, don't be like, oh, well, I forgave that. No, forgive it again. I promise you there's something about to happen, and you need nothing halting the flow of Elohim when that time comes. I hope that makes sense to you all. I'm a living witness of it. I practice it daily. And let's just say, as the mothers used to say, you can't make me doubt him. I know too much about him. So for those of you who are in need of healing, forgive as often as you can, even things you thought you forgave, to get the process going. Forgive it again and again and again and again and again, because you're going to remember it again and again and again. Forgive it as soon as you get it. I forgave that. I forgive it. I forgive it now. So Father, because my thing is, when he brings it back to him, like, well, I forgave that. Why you keep bringing this to me? Don't you know I forget? I'm like Peter. Peter, do you love me? Yeah, I love you. Peter, do you love me? Now, wait a minute. Did you just ask me that? Yeah, I love you. Peter, do you love me? Now, wait a minute. I know you heard me just tell you I forget. You know I do. That's how I am. Like, but the thing is, Peter don't understand it, and neither do we. So when you get him constantly reminding you, forgive it. I've learned, forgive it again. Forget what it is, forgive it again, and then say, okay, why are you showing me this? Because I do forgive it. Yeah, it stings every time I think about it, but I forgave him. I forgive my abuser. I am constantly reminded, and I'm constantly having a visual of that abuse that came, but I forgive it each time it comes. I forgive those who stab me in my back. I remember the pain. I remember the drama. I remember the integrity assault. I remember the character assault. I remember the defamation of character. It's like it's happening today. And I still remember I did forgive them. Now, what do you want me to learn from this now that I've forgiven them? What's the message? That helps with healing, not only mentally and spiritually, but physically. I thank you all for listening. I hope that this was edifying. And I released the microphone.
Thank you, Apostle. It was a blessing to remember. And you know, the only way that can happen is that there's love oozing out somewhere that overtakes that process. I remember, and I don't even know if they still do traction in the hospital, but I remember being in traction twice. And each time I would be laying there until I remembered to turn back to the one that loves me, getting that word and apply that word inside of me. And then when that happened, that's when things begin to change. Those times, not just those times, but when you were talking about being in the position that you was in, I wasn't as bad as you were, but just remembering that even in the process of that, I had to come back to the one that I was connected to in order to my healing process to begin. And in that process, it took forgiveness. It took me remembering things that had me bound. When I say bound, anytime you have unforgiveness, you have a place, an area that you're bound in. And that forgiveness part, that part of forgiveness, like you said, is so important because it's at the top of the list. And if you're walking around and you're talking about you're saved, if you're walking around saying I'm faithful, I go to church, I usher, I do all these things, but you have unforgiveness, then you're still bound. And I think that it, like you said, that as we close out this topic, that we understand the top of the subject will always be forgiveness. And no matter what you go through, if you don't have that space to allow forgiveness to cleanse you, because forgiveness is a cleansing process, you know, then you can't receive what you need to receive spiritually, mentally, or physically. It has to all be in one. So I really thank you.
Let me not leave that just hang there like a hanging chad. Forgiveness is a part of the process. What forgiveness is posture. Forgiveness is it puts you in the position to receive. From forgiveness, now that process of the cleansing process is when the blood can be poured on you. Because that's all a part of acknowledging. That's all a part of stating, here is where I am, here's what needs to be done. I stand here before you to be cleansed via the blood and the word. And that's what that's looking like. Pastor Charles, what you got?
Yeah, I keep saying, I think, Tiffany, you have a
Listen,
question.
look, I'm like this. I like, wait a minute. I had something to say. I was like, you just can't drop that and then gotta leave. Like, can everybody wait for a minute? Like, I had something to say.
I just told Steph I'm gonna be 30 minutes late for my
Thank you.
my broadcast. So whatever. Let's go.
I was like, nah, Apostle cannot jump off of here. Like, you owe me a phone. An Android. An Android. Okay.
Have you
But
forgiven?
I really appreciate you breaking it down on a spiritual level, like to articulate it, because I remember having a discussion with Rick and also with counsel, and I love the breakdown that Auntie Leslie K. Montgomery said as far as the scar. And I say that because that's a great tangible thing for me to be successful along my journey. But what I wrote on my paper, I said, and I'm glad that you said posture to receive, but I said, I really believe it's designed as a safety net. You can never forget. Unless you just have some type of memory issue. You can never forget. And in December, I was doing inventory and I was like, God, I just want to go into 2024 in a right frame of mind with forgiveness and all of the things. But I was like, but I can't forget. But I honestly forgave. And that's why using the scar, like, it's a process. The scar happened. It was a traumatic experience. You on a skateboard, you're riding, you're whatever, on a bike, you fall, you scrape yourself. After you scrape yourself, it hurts. And forgive and forget doesn't happen immediately. Now, you can forgive a thing quickly, and the Bible tells us to, but it still doesn't negate the fact of the process. So there is still a process that has to take place. And we come from a society that pushes from a young age, brush it off, push it back. And that's why so many of us are stuck, because they try to push it back in their head. Everything has been placed in us by God. Like every feeling, all of the things, like all of that has a place. And if you're not looking at it in this face, like, I mean, because it sets you up to fail. And like it oh my God, it sets you up to fail because you're not dealing. And if you're not dealing, like you aren't learning, you aren't building the muscle to be able to deal with these emotions when they come. Emotions serve a purpose. And just, saying, oh, you got to deal with the thing. But for me, for Tiffany, for my walk, not forgetting the thing, the hurt or whatever, it's a safety net because I believe God allows it to come back to our remembrance to keep us on the straight and narrow, to continue to wax on, wax off as we're moving towards our journey in this life. And it puts me personally in a posture of gratitude as far as where I am. Like, I'm thankful that I'm in my right mind, even though said thing happened. Like it for me, it puts me in a posture of gratitude, and it's a safety net for me, and it keeps me from getting stuck.
I want to enhance, because what you just laid out is beautiful. It's a safety net, but that same safety net keeps you from falling. That also becomes a place of protection.
Yep.
So it keeps you from hurting yourself, and it keeps out other hurts that would love to piggyback on that portal that you were just reminded of. Because once you pull that scab off, it's like a vortex. Everything that's associated to that scab can come back, and now we have what we call in psychology triggers that can get you now back in the same bad, funky mind, though you forgave that thing at one time. But if you don't realize that these things can be connected, they are, as we say, bedfellows, you miss the whole process. That's why you forgive it instantly. When you remember it, forgive it instantly so that it can go away. And that's a very significant thing. I love the muscle build, because we get muscle atrophy. And one thing about the skateboarding and the bike, when you're skateboarding and you're biking, you're so free, you think you got it, you in control, and then you hit a bump, a rock, a stick, or whatever, a can, and you realize I'm not invincible. You fall, bust that knee, that elbow, that chin. Now you might get back on that bike, but you will forever be apprehensive about being as free with it as you were. That's because you're remembering the potential of damage, the potential of harm. And in that, you can't forget. People, you cannot ever, you won't ever forget. While you said that, I'm going to put this out for everybody who's in Christendom at large. And I am in grave concern for Christendom right now. I'm sorry, Charles, were you, I just jumped in there.
I was I don't know.
Oh,
do you have anything you want to say?
Well, the only thing I want to say.
I didn't give you the spoon.
You didn't give me. Okay, thank you for passing the spoon.
I gotta give you the spoon.
So that's a part of our foundation. So that was the thing that in the beginning that started in my head when you started speaking, and that I've always believed in our foundation. So when those offenses come to us, it's attacking our foundation. So what happens with a foundation? You get a crack in it. Forgiveness is going to smooth and cover that crack. You're not going to forget it, because as these things come at us, it goes to our foundation. It strengthens our foundation. It allows us to remember when it comes to our foundation. But it also, what it does is it allows us to build those rooms on top of that foundation. And what type of room do we want? what type of room do we need to clean out? So that because if we forget these things that come at us, because a lot of what we get offended is probably our value system or part of things that we've gone through. That's why it hits us the way that it does. But again, like you said, you can't forget. And a lot of us, and I've heard this many times, is, leading and bleeding. When we're in a leadership position, we think that we can't have fault, we can't have issues, we can't go through things. And I love the last thing that you said about the mind. I can be in a calm, peaceful place, and something comes to mind that I know is negative. I know it's not something that needs to be there, but what you just said was it's that way of cleansing and clearing for what's coming. And I thank you for that.
Yahweh be praised. You brought up another point that everybody needs to pay attention to. You and your wife in tandem brought up this build thing, though we referenced it earlier. But the point is, you said that foundation. Once an offense happens to that foundation, being a contractor, owning as many houses as I did and doing as many flips as I did, and the way that I did them was by getting properties that were literally in trouble, right? Whether physically or financially. Right. And so usually the foundation is messed up, but any home you build and you have an appropriate foundation with and for, or you buy a property that has a bad foundation, the crack in the foundation never goes away. You have to fill it with something. So every time you walk by the side of your house and you know how we say the house is settling and you see the cinder blocks separating, you either get something to jack it back up, but you fill it with some kind of an adhesive to keep the foundation, to keep it secure. You got to fill that foundational crack with something. Because if you don't, it will continue to deteriorate. And that's where forgiveness becomes the funneling process to fill that offense. And that right there, that's definitely noteworthy.
Yeah, that's good. That's good. I don't know if Mike or Wanda wanted to say anything, because it is past the time, and you do have a session to get to. Real quick, I wanted to say that years ago I was on a bike riding back from the swimming pool, and I didn't have shoes on my foot. And the bike I was on back then, they had guards over the track, and it was bent up, and my foot slipped, and my leg went into the side of it. And my mom was a nurse, and when I got home, she said, "Well, I'm not taking you to the hospital because the only thing you're gonna always have a scar." So she nursed it back, but I promise you, I was like maybe 12, 13 then. I still had the scar to remind me. When I look at that scar, I remember like it was just yesterday what has happened. Because when I say I cut myself, only thing you saw was the white of my skin, because that's how deep it had went. So sometimes, whether it's a slight scar or a deep scar, what happens to that tissue within there is what makes a difference in how we heal. If we're doctoring it or if we're babying it, will make a difference in our healing process. I don't know if that makes sense to anyone, but every time I look at my scar, I remember that day as though it was yesterday.
You just had a flashback right there, child. You was like,
Yeah.
you got beat to the white meat. I mean,
Yeah.
I'm from the hood. We done beat to the white meat, so I know what you're talking about. Plus, you light skinned, so it wasn't hard to find the white meat on you. But at the end of the day, I'm just teasing.
Yeah, so we're gonna, Apostle, thank you so much. And we know that.
I think Mike has something he wanted to share.
Yeah, I'm about to let him say it, but you have gave us much value today, and I just wanted to say that. But go ahead, Mike. I'd love to hear from you.
Well, actually, I didn't have anything to say, but as you were
Wait a
talking,
minute, you mean we was off in the spirit? We missed the Holy Ghost. We didn't hear.
well,
We
no,
didn't hear.
maybe you were right on because
Our prophecy is off. We just all messed up.
right. No, and Tiffany started when Tiffany said the thing about the skateboard, and then what you just said, Leslie, just confirmed it because I have that same story. And as we're talking, and thank you for this, Apostle. I just realized that life is in its whole is a lesson and forgiveness. So when I think back to, when I was a kid, I was that kid. I had this red skateboard that I fell off, ran inside, bruised up my shoulder. Mom patched me up. I went back outside. Short enough, about an hour later, fell off and did the right shoulder. So I still have these two strawberries, as we call them, on my shoulders as remembrance. And it just brings it back every time I look at my shoulders, just like Leslie said. But, I'm just reminded through this call that, everything that we experience in life, every, hurdle, every hurt, every time someone, does something to us and we have to forgive, it's a lesson, for something greater in our life. And, everything that I've been through in like the last year, I've been able to to look at like all of those other lessons, the lessons with me and Alicia and my dad, and pull that into, as it is today. And I think the biggest thing that I got from you is forgiving ourselves. We say we forgive ourselves, but we have to do it like constantly.
Seriously.
And, that's something that for me, I will definitely continue to work on because, the forgive and forget thing, that's what we all have in our mind. But, like you say, it comes back up. All of that stuff comes back up, days later, years later, or whatever. And we have to be able to remedy that through, like you say, going through that same process again, over and over. So thank you for this.
And it's true, because we have to remember, it's not that we want it to come back up. I really believe that is Elohim bringing those things back up at a phase we're about to enter, but letting you know, I can't take you further. I need you to look at this again. There's something to learn from it. There's a prodding of the Holy Spirit that we get oftentimes. Remember, I don't think we like this, but the job of the Holy Spirit, Ruach HaKodesh, is to bring all things back to your remembrance.
Good and bad.
What? And from there, listen, if he brings something back to your remembrance and you lose your cool, you flip your wig, it's still a test for you. But if he brings it back to your remembrance and you instantly say, oh, I forgave that, Father, now it becomes a testimony for you. That's powerful. And how do we overcome? By the blood of the Lamb and the word of our testimony, not the trial of our test. Because if we're still in the trial of our test 10 years later, because when I think about it, I still want to punch you in your throat, snatch your hair off your head, and we are in test mode still, until it becomes a testimony of, hey, I now know how to walk that path better. Okay, so that means that I'm about to come up against something that might be similar to this offense previously. Now your sense of the Holy Spirit, your sensing of the Spirit can help you to see what's about to happen. Oh, I know that. I know I've seen that before. It's not the same thing, not the same person, but I identify the spirit behind that action, that movement, because you don't wrestle against flesh and blood. It ain't the person, it's the spirit behind it. So I've learned that when he brings it back, are you sure you're over this? I repent. I forgive that. Yes, I forgive that. I forgave that. I forgave that and I repented for it. I forgave that and let them go with it. But and it's a way of letting you know something like this is about to come up shortly. Be on the lookout. I promise you, that's worth the price of admission right there. Because you don't know what you're about to experience. And when things come back, it's because you got angels ministering to you. You got Ruach HaKodesh bringing things back to your remembrance so you can get to where you've been promised. And you got to know how to, as you say, go through that process. And the first thing we got to do is, hey, I forgave that. But what do you want me to learn from it? Now it's a testimony, no longer a test.
Yeah, that's good. Thank you. That's good. Alicia said that forgiveness, when you forgive, that is, it makes us, I'm sorry, makes us malleable in the hands of God. Then she turns around and says, I sat on the heater once. I'm still screaming.
We go see how, but you see how it reminds you? It is a thing. Your mind is never designed to forget. And you are designed to see. That's hilarious. Okay, it's the screaming part. So because look, I come from Jersey. We had them cast iron heaters underneath the man. Listen, or what she said, on one of the microwave heaters with the fan on it. No, I'm just. You ain't got to tell your business. I'm just asking. But let me say this before we leave off in a very sincere way. I want y'all to really consider this as these next few months and years bleed out in front of us. Okay? Leading and bleeding. Oh, a gas heater. I know. Yeah, enough said. But bleeding and leading, it's a real thing. And right now, I want to take a very serious moment to this very mature group of panelists to help us remind ourselves of what is always been, but really recently been happening within the faith and the construct of Christianity. I'm not a real big proponent of it, but I have to be associated with it because of how I teach concerning it to make sure we understand it's deeper than what we do in church. But right now, inside the church, there is a strong delusion being sent in that we have the right to be judge, jury, and executioner of any person's issue, any person's failure, any person's fault. I'm not condoning one damnable thing. But what I will say is if we don't forgive as a so-called construct of the faith in he who hung on the cross, those who have erred and let us down and disappointed our expectations of what leadership should look like, what leadership should be, you're going to find a very, very, very pure element of prophecy manifesting in front of us. And that will be a falling away of many. And we don't realize how much every time you hear whatever you hear in social media, you forgive that person if you held them in a certain light and you feel like they let you down. Forgive it. Forgive it. Forgive it, whether they knew what they did or not. People, please forgive it. You have no idea how it will prohibit you from forward progress. Well, I don't know if I can get past that because they're supposed to be a lead. They're supposed to do this, and God gonna hold him to a higher charge. No, he don't. Sin is sin. Forgive it. A lie is a lie. There's no big lie, no green lie, no blue lie, no purple lie, no fuchsia lie. A lie is a lie. Either you forgive it or you don't. Now, if you don't, whose side you on? If you do, whose side you on? I don't know. The song used to tell me, whose side are you leaning on? And we got to make sure we know what side we want to be on. And it doesn't have anything to do with our feelings. It has everything to do with our function based on his instructions. And as parents, we all know sometimes we got to get up and go to work. We can have COVID and we can have the flu. We can have everything. You got to put 8 masks on and put on some Timberlands or whatever you need to do to get out that door and get where you got to go, just to make sure that the bills are paid and the children are taken care of and food is on that table. And you got to do it. Don't matter how you feel. Our faith is no different. Now, we don't not address our feelings. But at the end of the day, we have to learn to forgive. And right now, with the climate we're in, based on allegations all over the world of faith. Don't y'all find it funny? I come out of Islam. I was in Christendom, then I went into NOI, and then I came back into Christendom. Never do you see the scandals in Islam. Never did I see any scandals when I was in another faith system that I see today in Christendom. And people who keep the mirror up to people rather than to themselves are people who've never had the mirror held up to themselves. The Apostle Paul was pretty clear, and I think he understood it well, that the people who keep trying to show you have never let themselves see themselves. If your brother is overtaken in a fault, you who are supposed to be spiritual. Brother Mike has proven to me today that I'm not spiritual. I missed the Lord today, thinking he had something to say. Clearly, the Spirit of God was not with me. Brother, would you please? But the point of that is that we have to make it our business to understand that if your brother is overtaken in a fault, you who are supposed to be spiritual, restore such a one in spirit of meekness, considering yourself. The reason you restore them in spite of them, if they've given you the idea that they are a part of contrition, you have to restore them considering yourself, lest you also be tempted of your own proclivities, of your own generational curses, of your own issues and struggles. And right now, Christendom is playing a game of accusation and projecting of personal righteousness on other persons and entities and things, when we need to use these moments to sit back and consider ourselves. I really don't want that to be me. So, Father, I repent. Father, I forgive. Father, I pray you restore and help and heal, bring salvation. You would none perish, but all come to repentance. And none of that conversation can start without us forgiving. And right now, with what's going on in our climate, there will be a great falling away. We can't stop it. But those of us who are really trying to live for the faith, we can be conscious and save ourselves a lot of unnecessary heartache and stilled motion. Auntie L, they call you. Did they leave because they throwing a spoon?
They there.
They throwing a spoon around. I want to know what the deal is with the spoon. What's up with the spoon thing here? What's the spoon? I want to know what the spoon is about.
Are you guys gonna come on to tell them what's?
I want to know what the spoon is about. We throwing spoons around. This is why you need an Apple phone, because if you got an issue throwing around spoons, we need to know. Inquiring minds want to know what the spoon's about.
Some people don't know how to be quiet, so their counselor told them to. Oh, here they come. Rick, tell a story about the spoon.
So some of us can get a little pushy and long-winded. So we need to have like a mic. Oh, look, she's doing it now. Hold on.
I know she is.
It's a mic toss. Toss mic.
All right, I'm gonna let her give her the spoon.
What'd I do?
I was trying to figure out what's the deal with this spoon thing. It's all in the chat. So I'm like, what's the spoon deal? What's going on with the spoon?
Okay. So I have a bad habit of cutting people off.
No, cutting me off.
I do it for everybody. So it's a bad habit.
Be for real now. This was because of you and him. Don't be bringing us into it, okay?
I have a bad habit because if I don't get it all, get it out, it'll go bye-bye. So I have a bad habit of cutting people off. So one of my beautiful cousins recommended. He was like, why don't you have a spoon and you can only speak if the spoon is in your hand. So So when we came on, I think the first time we came on, I had a spoon, and then we were kind of like passing it back and forth. So yeah,
Yes.
that's the thing.
And now I get the spoon. That is, I tell you, I do a lot of marriage counseling, and that is a beautiful technique, because what I have to tell the couples, though you're grown, one, you came to me for counseling, so you ain't gonna talk all over top of me just because y'all talk over top of each other at home. So you speak to the table. I have them sit across from each other, not next to each other. You spit what you got to spit on the table, okay? And you let that person vomit on that table. So you can see what they vomited and go search through, so you know what they choked on. You can also see what made them sick, and they can see it. But no one can cut the other person off. So when you get done, you give the floor back to me. When you get done, you give the floor back to me. And whoever we give the floor to, that's who goes. So the spoon, I get it. Good job. Tell that person they gave y'all pure good counsel. Well, y'all know that anyway. Y'all wise yourself.
Well, Apostle, I know you have to go. I want us to close. I want to say
one more thing.
Sure.
And it's because of Miss Childs. Well, everybody really. But it came to me when she was speaking. Remembering the strawberries, Brother Mike, remembering the scars, Leslie, remembering the pain, Charles. One of the things I don't think we got the benefit of because of how we were taught church is the keeping of Sabbath. I'm not trying to tell anybody to do it. Do I recommend it? Highly. But in Sabbath, the process of Sabbath is introspection. When you are in a state of forced mandatory introspection, Ruach will remind you. And from that moment, it begins to humble you. Because we can sometimes get on high horses. We can sometimes go about thinking we got this all together. And then we can get the opportunity not to be belittled, but to be humbled by our memory of, hey, you had some success. Don't get, don't be gloating, you had a failure. Hey, don't get down. Remember, that introspection then helps you to remember. For me, every Sabbath or every Moedim, I'm able in my time at sundown to tell the Father, hey, I'm here to present myself to you. Clean me out. Show me what you don't like. Show me what you see. Show me what I'm pity patting with again. Show me what I'm touching back with. Whatever you see in me that ain't right, let me know. I'm here for all the smoke. And you'll be surprised in that introspection every Sabbath, in the time he's in the earth, he helps us understand what we need to release, so he's able to release on and towards us. It's changed my life, y'all. I mean, it's changed my entire life when I learned the power of sabbatical introspection as a command of Elohim. We were never taught it in church. Get right out of the car, fussing with your spouse, and go preach on the pulpit. That type of scenario, where is Elohim in that? You find yourself no longer acting like you're saved, and you find yourself literally aware that you're pressing towards the mark of salvation in your lifestyle. Thank you for letting me speak. I gotta go teach.
You gotta go. And I'm gonna have let Wanda close us out, but I want to say thank you to the US, to the UK, to the Caribbean islands, to Sweden, everybody, anybody. If I missed where you're from, I want to say thank you for being here. I want to thank each and every one of you for being here. Apostle, thank you for taking time out of your schedule, because we know how tight it is to come here and to pour into us. And at this time, we're going to hear from the beautiful Wanda, and we're going to close out West Coast, US. Yes, Brother Ben.
Congrats, San Francisco.
Yay! To everyone, I love you and so glad you're here. Minister Wanda.
Yes, we've had a wonderful program today. And if you don't take anything away from here other than continue to forgive it. When it comes up, forgive it again. When it comes up, forgive it again. And remember, there's a reason why it's coming up. Ask Elohim, what's the reason it's coming up for? Manage it and forgive it again. And until we see you again Thursday or next Sunday morning, we say have a phenomenal week and shalom to you all. We love you, but Elohim loves you the best. Take care. Have a wonderful week. Shalom, everyone.
Shalom Aleichem.
Alaikum shalom.